Well, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you're at. This is Harry Brailsford from SMB Nation with our weekly webinar series. And I just want to, first of all, thank you very, very much for attending today because boy, I'll tell you, I've talked to more people this week that are now starting to take some vacation time, and that could include a Thursday. 1 foot out the door on Thursday to kind of have a stretch to make maybe a 10-day vacation. So you're not alone. You're not imagining this. I appreciate your time very much in attending our webinar. I also know that you're busy as the stock market hits new highs. I think we're all getting busier, so time is now the precious commodity. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk about work in just a moment. A couple of housekeeping items. So we have the SMB Nation Fall Conference coming up in a couple of months, October 10th through 12th, down in Las Vegas again. So go to fall.smbnation.com and take a look at the pathways that we have. Front and center, the XP and O3 migrations. We have hybrid hedge strategies, and we have the coolest company in the world case study that could very much incorporate something like the Jabra telecommunication headset and microphone and speaker solutions. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about here at the fall conference. It's really actionable. I'll almost call it hands-on stuff. Now, with that said, be sure to use the chat feature to ask your questions. Today, the ground rules are that we will answer the questions at the end of the webinar, and we also have that prize giveaway, the Jabra Soulmate today, that we'll be giving away at the very end of the webinar. And that's to reward you, all of you that A, attended, and B, all of you that stayed to the end. So how cool is that? Now, with that said, we've got a pretty cool cat with us today, Urban Gillis from Jabra. Urban, let's get going. Nice to meet you, sir. You said you're back east.
Yeah, Harry, thank you. Feel really privileged to be here. Yes, I am back east, and I have the, I guess, unenviable task about talking about work today in July, which I know we all want to do. And thanks for prefacing that with a 10-day half foot up at the door on a Thursday afternoon. But but I think there's good news, and I think it's actually very relevant to how we all work today. So if you want, I'll jump right in. So as you can see on the screen, the subject is the future of work. And really what I want to talk about, Harry, is the 3 megatrends that are really defining, the how, the when, and the why we work, and what those implications are. So we're going to cover those in a little more detail. But, as the chief executive of the world's largest provider of flexible workspaces, as well as the largest real estate holder on earth, Dixon has a well-founded opinion on where this new world of work is taking us and really what the future of the, quote, office holds. And more importantly, I guess, what we as business people really should be thinking about if we're going to stay on top of this rapidly evolving phenomenon. And what Dixon's telling us here is something important. And really it's, basically his opinion is it's an imposition to ask workers to get into their cars and drive to offices up to an hour away, each way in a lot of cases, just so they can use a computer and a phone. And they have those where they are already, and it's painfully clear that he's probably right. Yet we as adults and workers and business people tend to pause when we hear it said aloud. Not really sure why. Perhaps it's because our earlier selves are weighing in on this very modern sensibility. And I guess the question is, has work life really changed that much? And I think we are seeing that. So, again, work life has changed. Yep, go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, Urban, if you don't mind, I want to give a shout out to Regis. That's really timely you profiled them. They're a big SMB Nation supporter. We have covered them since like 2007, folks. I have the little gold card, and you can go into like 1,600 Regises around the world when you're traveling and use their little airport-like business lounge. I won't hijack your webinar, but I'm pretty excited. I could go on for hours about Regis. So good partnership. Good call, man.
No, it absolutely is. And it really, I mean, as you said, you have these locations, and has work life really changed that much? Yeah, it is, and it's changing in very substantial ways as well. And I think that the sooner we acknowledge these changes are happening, the faster we can adapt our own responses to them and then ride these waves the way we want to, really maximizing the opportunity not only for ourselves but for our companies and our shareholders. So at Jabra, we think we're in a unique position to view these changes in the workplace. As a global leader in the devices that push this future of work forward, we work closely with the major technology platform developers because we partner with them. And we were the first, and I'm going to toot our own horn a little bit here, but we were the first unified communication certified headset on the market back in 2000, so 7 years ago. And we've developed and shipped the largest suite of UC certified headsets and speakerphones like the one you see here, more than anyone else in this business. And we talk every day to the brands that are reimagining this modern workplace because they buy our headsets and speakerphones. And we brush up against a good number of the thought leaders like Mark Dixon at Regus and others as well because, quite honestly, we make it our business to know what's going on. We have to. So if we talk about here, we'll start here with our first megatrend, the democratization of technology. So I think we can all relate to this. The IT department used to be the source of all technology in the workplace, and computers and printers and even mobile phones were expensive business tools that were very carefully allocated out to workers on a need-to-have basis. And we all salivated and sat in line hoping we were important enough someday to get one of these nice expensive business tools. But we always assumed, at least our generation has always assumed, that these companies would provide these tools for us. So now if we fast forward in today's world with the rise of smartphones in particular, it's really changing that. And leading-edge companies are starting to provide allowances to knowledge workers who, buy their own BlackBerries. Well, not necessarily BlackBerries anymore, but, but now almost all companies are acknowledging that consumers are walking new technologies into the enterprise from retail. So it could be an iPad or an iPhone or some other device that's inevitably going to hang off the network. So this consumerization of IT, or bring your own device, has dramatically changed not just what devices you're going to find in the boardroom, but really the nature of work itself. So here our president, Pete Fox, really basically is saying that we're all consumers in this day and age, and we are in fact faced with technology all the time now. So, there's a great example of when was the last time any of us jumped on an elevator and didn't see every single person next to us focused on a wireless device. But this explosion of choice is not only a matter of consumer taste. So let's acknowledge that this megatrend is driven by a number of key factors, right? So it's driven by, exceptional design, it's driven by low-cost manufacturing, and it's driven by powerful processing power. So the devices that are available at the average Apple store, as an example, or Best Buy, are as powerful, if not more powerful, than what we're getting from our IT manager in our workplace based on, the corporate contracts that we have. So given this price erosion in computing and mobile telephony, these devices are well within that, I don't have to ask, my spouse or my wife permission to buy these devices. So they're really within that threshold of even the stingiest of corporate workers. And, if we look back, yeah, go ahead, Harry.
Oh, Urban, I couldn't let that one fly by, but I think every, if you don't mind a little humor, but I think every senior professional on this call knows exactly what you're talking about. It's that sort of get away from mama or get away from papa money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And folks, please don't be offended. I'm just calling it like it is in the real world.
Absolutely.
Please continue.
Yeah. So, but if we look back 5 years ago and we saw, one of our coworkers bringing their own laptop to the office, I mean, that was, that was not only rare, but it was very, very, very much discouraged for security reasons. Today, it's not just increasingly common. We're finding more and more that it's actually becoming the norm. And, we've got enterprise quality IT in our homes, which I'm sure many of us can relate to. So it's very easy to have this enterprise class technology as a consumer. So we expect that when we go to the office. We want that same range of choice, and we're not okay having, as an example, a $1,500 Ultrabook on our desk at home, and then we go to work and use a 15-year-old computer. So if you think, some people might say, well, this trend is a matter of, quote, executive desktop truly. Think again. If you look at the younger workers, this younger generation who are coming to work now, these younger workers have never known life without the internet. And they increasingly expect and demand that the places they work are going to keep up with their personal choices. So if we, as business people, don't provide the right tools, from enterprise telecommunication systems to the devices that bring them to life, they're going to look elsewhere. They're going to want to work elsewhere. So what this democratization of technology megatrend has done is put tremendously powerful devices in the hands of, quote, the rest of us, right? So this is the real heart of the matter. We no longer have to come to work, come to our office to be productive. Our smartphones, our laptops, and our tablets are as powerful, and as I said earlier, probably more powerful than those in this increasingly irrelevant office, which leads us to our next megatrend. So, before I jump into that, here's an example of how our portfolio, we look to tie that into some of our alliance partner solutions, in this case, Microsoft Lync, for those who are familiar with Microsoft Lync technology. So the decline of location. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Urban, is that with our audience, a lot of our people are part of the Microsoft Cloud Essentials program. So today's audience is, of course, the channel partners, a lot of Microsoft partners, et cetera. And folks, what I want to call out to your attention, because I'm actually playing with this a little bit right now with my Weekend Warrior mode, is with the E3 plan, or what used to be called the E3 plan, but with the plan you get as a Microsoft partner who's part of Cloud Essentials, and you get the in-house use of Office 365. That does include the Lync server, the Lync capabilities. And Urban, we're just starting to see our S and our SMB partners start to play with that. That's still, with all due respect, it's probably been messaged as more of a mid-sized to enterprise solution. So I just want to give a shout out, folks, that you actually own that benefit. You should start to play with it. Sorry to interrupt you, Urban.
No, absolutely, and it is a very, very powerful tool, and I would agree. It is starting to migrate down to the S, but it is a great solution, and there are a lot of great solutions. We work with a lot of alliance partners, so happy to discuss with any of the partners more specifically as we move on. But so the second mega trend, we look at powerful computing and communication devices, and we put these in the hands of the public, and then we add absolute ubiquity of high-speed internet, and it really leads us to this decline of location. So you talked about earlier, Harry, 1 foot out the door going on vacation. None of us really get that vacation anymore, but we can work from wherever we are. And what we're seeing is that around 35% of workers are mobile today, and many analysts and experts in this field expect it to go as high as 75% by the year 2017. So these are actually people who do not report to the same place of work every day. And quite honestly, based on what we're seeing and hearing, this number is probably understated. So if you add this to the recent research that has suggested that more than half, and again, this is somewhat shocking when you first hear it, but more than half of all office cubicle space is empty at any given time. So it's absolutely clear this is a mega trend to watch. So if we have the communications technology at our fingertips that can really give us the same productivity tools on the go that we used to only enjoy in an office, not to mention the fact that a good size or a good portion of our workforce isn't actually in the office, it gives us reason to question why our facilities budgets are so high. And really, unified communications and the internet make this all unnecessary. So if we can come to grips with the idea that shrinking our physical footprint might just be a sign of economic process, all things become possible. And when I say it's not necessarily our physical footprint, but if we put that in the perspective of our customers, this is what our customers are thinking and doing every single day. So if we, further in an economic climate where we don't have the headcount and our customers don't have the headcount we relied on a few short years ago, we've definitely found ways to do more with the people we still have left, and I think our customers are in the same boat. They have to travel more because they're often picking up responsibilities that were once done by others. So, video conferencing, yeah, that's exploded, both in terms of technological capabilities as well as in use, but the reality is that we've discovered how hollow the argument really is that this will take the place of travel. So video conferencing, in our opinion, or my opinion, I guess, doesn't really replace travel. It's not a cheaper business trip. For what we're seeing in the market is it's a better phone call. So in a current age where we know, and again, based on a considerable body of consumer tracking from all the analysts that we read and employ and listen to, our collective trust in our institutions across the board, from government to industry to education and elsewhere, is at an all-time low. And the power and importance of face-to-face is critical. So we need to see our partners. We want to see our partners. We need to build trust-based relationships. And this only happens when we physically spend time with them. So, we kind of view this as the original social network. So even when we consider the headquarters location, changes are afoot with greater need on speed and collaboration in place of dedicated real estate, for example, for knowledge workers who, again, are rarely in the office. We in place of all these cubicles, we're now seeing another trend called hot desking. Mobile workers who spend a few days or hours in the headquarters simply find an open spot to plug into when they do go in the office. When they're out the door and on their way to a client location across town or on the other side of the world, they're still in touch and have that same productivity suite following them. So being out no longer means being out of contact. And again, sometimes that's a great thing, and sometimes it's not so good, as you said, when we have our foot out the door for vacay in these summer months. But so this idea that location is no longer a constraint has many important implications. Geography is a secondary issue. Knowing that we can have that high-speed connectivity, cloud storage ensures that our data is available at our fingertips, and our personal suite of productivity devices is always at our side. So the office is now wherever we have a computer, a headset, and an internet connection. So we live and work in a very virtual space. And quite honestly, that's the trend we're seeing. That's where people want to work.
Yeah, Urban, comment from a couple slides ago, it was the irony that the first article I did on Regus, and folks who get our magazine, I know you keep every issue, so go back to early 2008, and I wrote it up that landlords and developers should be scared. That was my first coverage of Regus, with the day office concept and the executive suite concept and yada, yada, yada. But Urban, to your point a couple slides ago, I have no idea how land developers, commercial land developers, are going to find growth in the next generation. It's not going to be my two boys. I'll tell you that. My two boys aren't going to need an office in 10 years when they start work. You know what I mean? It's changing very, very quickly.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And we're seeing it with many large enterprises as well, that typically have these campuses, and now the campuses are empty, and there's a large computer direct reseller manufacturer that we do business with that has had a work-at-home initiative for years, and they're sending workers home. And I think it's public information or public knowledge that JetBlue's contact center isn't a contact center. They employ all their reservations, their agents are at-home workers. So their contact center is done with at-home workers. JetBlue, I think, has done that from day one. So you're seeing it large and small.
if you hear my Springer Spaniel bark in the background, I'm guilty as charged. I'm in my home office on the south end of Bainbridge Island. But hey, let's talk about the war on talent.
Absolutely. So the war for talent, right? So all of a sudden the world shifts. So we're now competing for the best talent on a global basis, and the best of the best can pick and choose where and when they want to work. So this is really that megatrend number 3. So once we come to grips with the fact that powerful communications and computing technology is now commonplace and locations no longer a constraint, new opportunities actually present themselves. So the war for talent becomes more intense as companies really compete for the best knowledge workers on a global basis. So they don't have that regard for, relocation packages. They don't have to worry about where they work. So the war for talent is really different now than it once was. The increase in jobs isn't necessarily there, and you combine this with the difficulty in the economy and the inability to sell real estate the way we could before, and you have more people making lifestyle choices to stay where they live. They want to stay in a geography that's more desirable to them, and that may be different from where they work. So we have to provide a more flexible work environment for them so that they can be productive no matter what time zone they're in. So, if you're asking me to move, tell me again why I have to move. Why am I going to uproot my family? Why am I going to change schools? Why am I going to sell my house when location is no longer important? And we just went over the fact that I'm not supposed to be hanging around the office anyway. I'm supposed to be out in front of my partners, in front of my customers. So if I don't have to move, I guess I can recruit on a wider basis now. So my team doesn't have to pile into a physical conference room every Monday morning. We can do this with video. And, this is how things are changing, and things have changed. I'm no longer constrained by a local talent pool. And maybe, in some cases, the only real constraints are language and sleep. So an interesting byproduct here needs discussing. And once we shut the branch offices and have our regional people working out of their homes or out of their professional layers like Regus offices that we talked about earlier, we've created a void we need to fill. So we've discussed the importance of face-to-face communication, and internally within our companies, this is more than just an issue of trust. This is the formation of culture, and it's really what binds us together. Regardless of location, we need this us, and even if we're not always in the same room, we still need to create or recreate that social glue. So companies spend more money on these candidates in terms of compensation. They also spend more on those trappings that make themselves a more attractive employer. And our previous megatrend suggests that location is no longer a constraint. With the resulting decline of the branch office, we see this trend of bigger and better headquarters locations. So what Mark Dixon of Regus is telling us again is that not only is this a good idea, it's one that his company is urging customers to embrace. You need your own, quote, Googleplex, a heavily branded headquarters locations where, you have a ton of meetings and you bring people there as kind of your show place. So office space is another opportunity for design thinking in creating your own plex, if you will. So increasingly, when we eliminate branch offices, we're able to invest more in creating a headquarters location that employees love, or more aptly love to visit, because no one wants to work in these places. It's a recruiting tool, quite honestly, and it's, from a younger generation coming into the workforce, it could be a next generation tiebreaker. So if you look at, some of the things, like, for example, here, Microsoft's Zia Mansour agrees, and he actually takes this argument a step further, where he's connecting the concept of retaining the best and the brightest with the need for providing the right tools in workplaces. So how do we retain talent? When a new employee walks in our office, would they want to work here instead of vendor B? So a huge part of this is the workplace design of that environment. And, this is a place that I'd like to work. It's got a beautiful feeling to it, and this is about workplace design. It also aligns around how people work today. Less fixed space, more collaborative space. We're all collaborating more and more, working in groups, and this is how we work. So we've discussed the 3 megatrends. and the impact in the future of work, the democratization of technology, the decline of location, and the war for talent. So what are the implications for the business leader? What are the implications for our customers? And what do we have to take away from this discussion? Well, what happens to traditional notions of work when this much power is decentralized, if we're willing to accept that these megatrends are in fact megatrends and that the smart business leader will now be looking downfield, trying to piece together what implications lie in store for the business as they become more commonplace. So if we return to that idea that I mentioned a few minutes ago about social glue, this cultural element really defines the informal bonds that form between coworkers around the water cooler that really improve teamwork, facilitate the flow of information, and generally keep morale high. When you remove this glue, or if you remove this glue and things begin to fall apart, and if there's no water cooler left, those informal meetings really need to be replaced with something just as strong, even if you have to manufacture them on their own. So again, Regis and Mark Dixon say smart companies need to step up their internal communications and create reasons to bring everyone into the Plex so that the glue remains strong. And if you're saving 80% of your previous, property costs, you spend some of it on bringing people together. You're going to have to focus on networking because it's not going to happen automatically. Spend money on communications, and our partners are telling us this is happening increasingly every single day. Our customers are spending money on communications, and it's not normal communications and newsletters. They've got to win the hearts and minds using modern communications. They encourage and facilitate and engineer those coffee conversations that you typically may have in a common office. And if those companies do it well, it's seen as a very positive change. And companies that do this really see rises in productivity following very successful implementations. So what about the workers themselves? What skill sets will be needed to survive and thrive in this new world of work? So the implications are clear. Workers who thrive in environments where clear direction isn't always down the hall are comfortable with ambiguity and are capable of producing world-class work without the need for constant hand-holding. And these folks are going to be in high demand. So those with the skill to communicate effectively and clearly with a far-flung team of similarly smart people on complex projects will soon be sought after. And this new reality suggests that the future of work is looking for a self-starter and a self-motivator. And again, this has nothing to do with, that kind of rogue cowboy antics of uncontrollable renegades making up their own rules. This really has to do with people who can operate in space. And our boss agrees, that the need to collaborate across a larger group of people to get stuff done is growing. And it really puts more emphasis on communication and collaboration, not just the tools, but the skills. And this goes far beyond putting tools in people's hands. So you can't take, as an example, a bunch of dogs and call them cats and expect them to climb trees and catch mice, because they can't do that. But those who aren't comfortable in this new future will tend to gravitate toward roles that have more structure. But understand that those jobs are going to be fewer and further between as time goes on. And especially given that location is no longer a constraint, finding knowledge workers who do thrive in this environment becomes easier. And globalization ensures that commodities will seek their lowest possible cost. So it comes with a risk if you're totally dependent on structure.
Hey, Urban, a little bit of housekeeping.
Sure.
It's the bottom of the hour. We're essentially halfway through the 1-hour webinar from our timing perspective. So, again, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, a shout out. Nancy Williams dropped me a little side note that she's really excited about this webinar. She's attending, really likes it. I do too. And Nancy, and for everybody, the webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a personal thank you letter from me tomorrow with a link to the recording of the webinar. So Nancy indicated she'd like to replay it to some of her coworkers who are all mobile over at a company called eFolder. I want to just, again, encourage you to use the chat feature so we can queue up your questions for the end of the webinar to ask Urban. And a little bit of housekeeping again, SMB Nation Fall, where some of these concepts are being woven into the fabric of the fall conference in mid-October. And it's 1 week ago, the webinar 1 week ago, we launched the peer groups, yada, 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 and you are attending the Future of Work webinar with our friends over at Jabra. So Urban, with all that housekeeping behind us at midpoint, looks like we're ready to talk about small companies. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So yeah, one more implication that we wanted to discuss, obviously, and this one is a bit further over the horizon, I guess. You know, our good friend Mark Dixon at Regis gave us his impression of what comes next, and suggesting that large companies in the future will actually be a combination of many small companies that are brought together by an executive team. And really the heart of a company will still be its own people. But there'll be much more use of subcontractors and people providing products and complete end-to-end services. So one of the benefits of looking at the data and anticipating the trajectories of these trends is you often see where things are heading first. And obviously, if you can see where it's heading first, you can plan accordingly. So this idea that not just headquarters space, but headquarters staff can be reduced and the needs of the organization can be flexibly met with those who are similarly focused on their own self-interest is one such idea. So once we separate ourselves from the notion that our workers need to be in our locations, it's really a leap of faith to suggest that not all of them need to be our employees. And I think our customers are tending to do that and basically saying that, you know, they do what they know, and what they don't know, they outsource. So with these concepts of individual empowerment really leveling the playing field with employers, the rise of highly empowered contributors both within the corporate sphere as well as those only loosely affiliated with it, again, proficient in both creative work as well as collaboration and the decentralization of the workplace, you'd be forgiven really if you thought that our position was that we're predicting the demise of the workplace. We're not predicting the end of the workplace. What we are predicting is that smart organizations and managers are quickly recognizing the power of individuals, the increasing irrelevance of geography, and the primary importance of social glue and speed, and that those companies will be the primary disruptors of the next 12 months, not the next decade. It's happening now. We see it with our customers. Our partners see it with our customers. It's happening now. And this is good news. So we're optimistic here at Jabra because our position at the forefront of this future of work gives us not only a bird's eye view of this total transformation of the global workplace, but more importantly, an opportunity to help shape it with our partners and our customers. So we really think it's an exciting future. We hope you find it exciting as well. And if you'd like to talk about this in more detail, we're here to help. And we'll take that next step. So, you know, this is the formal, I guess, or the end of the formal presentation, Harry. So.
Okay. Well, very good. Okay, let me, Urban, excellent. First of all, while I'm kind of breaking out the chat screen, where can people communicate with you? How can they reach you or the appropriate program?
So my personal email address is the letter U, Gillis@jabra.com. We also have a more generic email address, SMB Workstyle, so small mid-business, SMB Workstyle @jabra.com is the best way to get a hold of me or us.
Okay, great. Let me just make a note for tomorrow's follow-up, and I'll send that at SMB Workstyle.
Correct.
At Jabra.com. Okay, I'm already writing my thank you letter, as you always should. So, in any event, well, here we are. Nancy Williams had a question about what are your thoughts on Yahoo's recent decision to make all staff on site? Interesting question.
So, did you say on site or off site?
on-site. You may recall the new CEO who brought everybody back to the office. It's almost a contra trend. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, personally, I see far too many very successful companies taking the opposite approach. And, it relates very much back to that idea of the war for talent, or the war on talent. If you're looking at recruiting the best and the brightest, you are very much restricted by location. And you might be selling yourself short or settling for the best and the brightest within a certain radius of your office. So, but, again, I don't run Yahoo. Yahoo's a very large company. But I think it kind of flies in the face of what we're seeing and what many analysts are predicting that we've talked about today. I think it's a very good question, and be curious to see how that comes about.
I agree. We have Ben Hyman asked too. The first one I can handle. Ben Hyman asked, "Is there a Twitter hashtag?" Ben, I've been tweeting throughout the show. Excuse me. If you just want to go ahead and follow SMB Nation, that's what I've been using today. Ben goes on to ask a question probably more for Urban is, how does cloud computing and storage tie into the future of work? Interesting question. What are your thoughts on the dispersed nature of IT now with cloud computing?
Well, I think if you look at it from a couple of different aspects, you look at it from a mobility aspect, which is a huge trend we're seeing. Most workers are mobile, be it on the road and totally mobile and traveling, or even those still involved in a campus, mobile around the office. They're not sitting at their desk today. So those are very powerful tools that enable us to have our data at our fingertips. And we relate it very much in conversations with our partners who, we talked about that aspect of face-to-face earlier. Our customers want to see us because they want to know that we're in the boat with them, and they want to build that trusting relationship. In today's world, we really can't do that without the cloud. So we're dependent on the cloud because we need information at our fingertips, but we also need to be in front of our customers. So we see it as a very positive, and it really ties into, where we live and breathe, which is in this, communication and collaboration space. It's a very important part. And, you mentioned Microsoft earlier, and I mentioned Microsoft earlier, but, you roll out Office 365, and then you couple that with a Surface or another tablet, you can do anything from the road if you're utilizing tools such as cloud computing and cloud storage. You have all that information at your fingertips, and you become increasingly more relevant to your customers as a result.
Well, yeah, why not live at a ski resort? I mean, seriously.
Exactly.
get the same work done, let me tell you. We have an individual asking, when talking with my customers about their needs, headsets seem like an afterthought. How do I get my customers to understand the importance of headset and endpoints? Good question.
That's a great question. What our audio devices do is really bring the whole solution together. So, as we discussed in this webinar, we call it the last 3 feet, or the critical 3 feet, is perhaps the most important component of any solution. So how you connect the solution you're implementing with the user can mean the difference between fast adoption and a good ROI, or wasted time and money. And, this is absolutely a discussion I would love to have with you and your customers, because I think that increasingly they are understanding how important this last 3 feet really is. And we've seen too many projects go awry because the partner didn't discuss, didn't bring into the fold that last 3 feet, the endpoints. And if you're going to a total soft phone solution, if you will, or a total internet-based communication platform, and you're asking your customer to rely on the speaker and microphone that's built into their desktop or laptop or tablet, that communication they're going to have is not going to be very good, and it's going to reflect poorly on the solutions that the partners are implementing. So, we're seeing very much an increase in not only acceptance of our devices, but quite honestly, absolute necessity for our devices like ours.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I love that. The last 3 feet. I've written that down because I've used the phrase, and everyone on this call has heard it before, the last
Absolutely.
mile.
Yep.
And so that's sort of an IT guy or gal concept, the last mile, but I have not heard the last 3 feet, and that's a fascinating perspective. We have another question. Oh, hey, folks, by the way, be sure to use your chat feature to ask your questions, and stay till the end. Stay till the end, because we are giving away that Jabra Soulmate sound system. So must be present to win. Oh, this is from Grant Thompson. So Grant's a real pioneer with Office 365 and BPOS and in our community. So couple sentences here, so we'll get going. We have customers wondering about using Lync for water cooler areas, e.g., example, having a camera, a microphone, and monitor set up that will provide a group meeting space. Have you seen anyone doing this? What devices, services do you see them using? For example, Lync is generally tied to a user, but perhaps creating a user for a place, a device, and perhaps something that isn't a PC having to be there. One customer asked about IP cameras. So I think he's pretty straightforward. What are your thoughts, Urban?
Yeah, I can't recall any specifics, but I have seen some kind of rogue solutions that may do that, but I think it is an important point. And, one of the things that we're seeing an increase in that is starting to incorporate small groups, if you will, that maybe travel together is the use of tablets. And, we have, for example, Bluetooth devices that tie into those tablets, but I've been personally on conference calls, webinars, and video conferences in my rental car using a tablet on Microsoft technology. And so I don't think that's a far-fetched thought, and I think that's something that perhaps we could see increase. Because, again, we're working, we're collaborating, and, we have a couple of different solutions. As I said, we have we just released not too long ago a Bluetooth speakerphone that is perfect in such situations, and we're increasingly using it more and more as we're traveling to our customers, and we can't get away from these calls. So I think that's a great thought, and yeah, I'd love to be part of any specific discussions if you have solutions around that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Good on you, Grant. Couple questions in my queue here, and then before you know it, maybe we'll be drawn for that grand prize. So we have someone asking, when you discuss big ideas such as the decline of location and the war for talent, I'm curious to know how Jabra plays into these conversations. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So, when discussing the decline of location, the war for talent, there is one common underlying theme that I hope was resonated today, and that's really collaboration and communication. So with the decline of location, we're talking about the office being anywhere and everywhere. What's important is that the employee effectively being able to communicate and, I think more importantly, collaborate with their peers even if they're on the other side of the world or on the other side of the country. So when discussing the war for talent, you're talking about hiring the best talent regardless of their location. And again, this really means that communication and collaboration are key, as they'll not be working in the office right next door. So in both cases, we're obviously pretty biased, but in both cases, our devices, audio endpoints, headsets, speakerphones, are hugely important, because this is what will allow that future employee or the remote worker or the mobile worker even the ability to continue to collaborate, communicate, and ultimately increase their productivity regardless of their location. And, again, we see it in our own worlds every day, and we see it in our customers' worlds every day. It's rare today when someone's sitting at a desk. They're always on the move, they're on the go, they need to be accessible, and the last thing you want to do is be talking about a multi-million-dollar solution on a piece of crap, that you can't hear very well phone. You want to come through crisp and clear because they're expecting that you're going to deliver the right solutions so that we can effectively communicate and collaborate. So hopefully that answers.
Cool. I got two more. Yep. Two more questions, sure. And then we'll draw for the prize.
Great.
Appreciate everyone's time again today. So the next question is, I do a lot of systems integration work for my clients in the form of software solutions, which takes up the majority of my time. Why should I also offer the headset as opposed to just sending them to Best Buy down the street?
That's a great question. Great question. So, there are many reasons why you should include our headsets in that overall solution. The first, I think, is that your customers want to have, that one throat to choke thing, one person to go to for all their IT needs. And I'm sure that you've all heard the saying, we just want that one throat to choke. So they don't want to have to go to one reseller if Link isn't working correctly, and then have to go to another reseller if the headsets are malfunctioning. And if you're telling your customers to source their headsets for someone else, quite honestly, it baffles me because you're potentially introducing your customer to your future competitor. As all technology commoditizes, that's when more and more people can have access to it. And today you might not want to be involved in headsets or even some of the hardware peripherals that go around the solutions you're offering today. As all technology does, it commoditizes over time, which means it's more widely available. You potentially could be introducing your customer to your future competitor. And we're very much seeing that headsets are quickly becoming an IT must-have, and the IT organizations are managing them. So, I guess selfishly, that's why you shouldn't be sending them down the street or sending them to somebody else. I would think that you would want to be that trusted advisor, that one source, that one throat to choke, if you will, for your customer base.
Yep, I agree. I appreciate you hitting on that theme. We pound that in almost every week. Urban, one of our challenges is our audience, myself included, we're geeks. And
yep.
So, we were raised in the server-side generation, and customers were just something that they were in the way between me and that server.
Right.
You just needed to get them out of the way as quick as you could. And if there weren't any customers, we could get some real work done, So
absolutely.
We do have to weave in the business conversation. And final question, sir, and then we'll draw for the prize. You mentioned that Jabra has a great working relationship with leading IT vendors. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, briefly. Yeah, absolutely. So all of our audio devices, our headsets, our speakerphones are UC certified by many of those leading vendors. And not to leave it, our biggest would be Microsoft, Avaya, and Cisco. So we have certified devices on all three platforms, plus many, many, many others. And this means that our headsets go through rigorous testing, to meet the various requirements for quality and compatibility standards of these partners. And not only are all of our products certified by these alliance partners, we also work hand in hand with their R&D teams. So, as an example, we recently launched the Speak 450, which is a speakerphone solution jointly developed by Cisco and Jabra. And, so if you want more information on our specific Jabra Alliance relationships, you can visit Jabra.com, or again, you can get in touch with me or anybody on my team, and then we can absolutely update you on the many, many, many partners that we are compatible with and certified by.
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, we've reached that moment. Let me spin the magic wheel. And the winner today is Melanie Goss, has won the Soulmate. Can you talk a little bit about that product? Melanie's out of New York, so congratulations. What is the Soulmate?
So the Soulmate is a portable speaker, and this is on the consumer side of the house, really, but it is quite a good business tool. But it's a portable Bluetooth speaker that connects to several devices simultaneously, has unbelievable volume, is small in scope, and I can't say enough good things about it. I use it every day in my office. Sometimes, people will say, "Is that music in the background?" And I say yes, because it's a fantastic device, and I turned it off for this, but I can easily turn it on, and you're going to hear. Maybe not. Oh, maybe because I'm on my headset.
Soulmate is connected.
There you go. There's my Soulmate. So my Soulmate's connected now. So I can play my music, but it's a great product, and you'll make your friends and colleagues very jealous with this product.
Excellent. So Melanie from Centerpoint in Manhattan, New York, congratulations. Heather from our staff will be contacting you offline for the delivery of that. Folks, before we say goodbye, just once again, a little bit of housekeeping. Join us every Thursday for the webinar. Make yourself knowledgeable of the fall conference at fall.smbnation.com. And Urban, I'll let you take us out one more time. How can they reach you before they get my thank you letter tomorrow with your email address?
So 2 ways. You can visit us at SMB Workstyle or email me at smbworkstyle@jobber.com. My personal email is ugillis@jobber.com. So either of those will work. And if you want to dig a little deeper, we have a small little SMB dedicated site called